This is Amplifyou, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified.
Jump right into our expert speaker. We are so fortunate to have Michelle Abrams here with us. She helps entrepreneurs amplify their vision, voice, and visibility with podcasting. She hosts the Amplifyou podcast, the Blissful Parenting podcast, and the Potapalooza podcast extravaganza, and the podcast Potapalooza. So Michelle's agency Amplifyou and has launched over 400 podcasts and publishes over 100 episodes weekly, and described by Shark Tank alumni Kevin Harrington as North America's top podcast management company. Michelle was voted number 16 the last 2 years on Podcast Magazine's list of the top 50 moms in podcasting. She was also awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year, Impact Award, and People's Choice by Business from the Heart. So join me in welcoming Michelle Abrams to the podium.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, and I'm going to share my screens too. So you guys, I've got a short amount of time to give you tons of content today. And what we did was last month, if you were here, I asked you guys, what do you want to know about being a podcast guest? And you guys gave me all sorts of great questions. So that's what I'm going to share today with you. So I've got lots of cool things about how to be a smart podcast guest. And that's really what we're going to do today is, just go for it. So I'm excited to be here. So excited to be a part of Grand Connection and be here with you guys every month. This is such a cool group. And I'm excited that you guys get to do some connecting and matching today, because that's one of the best things about podcasting is the connections and collaborations you meet with others. So we obviously teach podcasting. We help you launch podcasts. We help you manage your podcast. We help you get booked on shows. But one of the biggest things that I think is the reason that every person needs a podcast is because the way that podcasting works is unlike any other tool out there. It's a networking tool. It's a tool that you can open the door to relationships and get to meet people that you never would have the opportunity to meet otherwise. And in fact, with 2 podcast guesting interviews I did in the last 12 months, we've added 6 figures to our business just from 2 of those episodes. So I have 3 podcasts myself. I've recorded probably close to 1,000 episodes between all 3 of those podcasts, plus another few I had before. I've been a guest on over 100 shows. And there's just so many things that I see people doing really right out there. And then so many things I see people doing really wrong out there. So let's get to the smart podcasting. I'm going to give you guys the condensed version. We've booked hundreds of guests on shows, and we've seen how some of those matches have gone amazing and some have bombed. And here's what we've come to the conclusion with and why we will help our clients get on shows that are right for them, because podcast guesting is a waste of your time if you don't do these 4 things. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 quick, really cool tips that I think will help make podcasting a fit for you. And the reason I say I've seen so many podcast interviews gone wrong, or have had people come to us and say they're just like not getting any results from podcast guesting. Well, this is why. So here they are. So number 1, your call to action. So your call to action is, where are you leading people to after the interview, right? So this is their call to action, CTA. So if you go on a podcast as a guest and you have a great interview, and then at the end of the interview, the host is like, where should we send people to? And you're like, I don't know, find me on Facebook. Well, what the heck? That is not going to work. Your audience is like, now they've heard you talk. They're interested in what you have to say. And you're just going to go make them look for you on Facebook. No, that's not going to work. So what you want to do is have a good, strong call to action. And I have a feeling that Joe's going to dive us deeper into this next month into calls to action. I hope, because he's got some really great tips on that. But for today, I'm just going to share with you, you need to lead them somewhere. And what we've seen that has worked really well is when you're leading people to somewhere where they can deepen the relationship with you. So they're taking you from getting to know you on an interview, and now you're taking them to the next level. The next level means like a video, or it means having a community in a group, or it means a conversation with you. Now, sometimes going from a podcast episode as a listener to like having a one-on-one call with you, that's like going from like saying hi at the bar to like getting married. That's a little bit too much sometimes for people. So it's finding somewhere in between there where they can deepen the relationship with you and then get to know you a little bit better. And that's what we want to do in an episode. So number one, you need to have a good call to action. Number two, this is really where podcasting goes wrong. Just because someone says they'll have you on your show doesn't mean that that's a good thing for you to do. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to go on to a show that is about nutrition and talk about podcasting. It just doesn't make sense, right? Just because that host said I could come on and wants to talk to me all about my story and my message, is not a match for my audience that I want to get in front of and talk to. Sure, there might be a couple of people that might be interested in podcasting in that audience, but it's not really podcasting is not the problem. The audience of a nutrition podcast is trying to solve. Do you understand? So that's where that's not a match, right? So what you want to do is find an audience that's already there with a podcast, and the host speaks to your people. So for myself, I always look for shows who speak to authors, coaches, speakers, other podcasters, entrepreneurs. Those are my people, right? So I want to get on those shows. If they're speaking to parents, that's not my expertise for my podcasting business. If they're talking to school teachers, that's not really my jam either for podcasting. So I want to get in front of the right audience. And when this audience match and you are in alignment, magic happens. Okay, so then from your message, here's the third thing you need to do. Somewhere in your talking to being interviewed on the show, so we're talking like if you're a guest and you're going on a show, somewhere in your conversation, you need to have some stories that will allow the audience to get to know you. They'll be like, oh, wow, I can totally relate to her or him, and I want to know more about them. And so within your conversation as a guest, you need to allow people to get to know you a little bit deeper, usually with stories. Give them a couple of really good, juicy, high value points, and then tell them that you have something that they could really use or want to discover more about. And then this is where the call to action comes in. So you're leaving the audience with a lot of value, a great message with stories, so they'll remember it. And then you're leaving them with something else they want more from you. Okay, so that's the goal as a guest, is to leave the audience wanting more of you. That's when their goal is search you out on Facebook. All right, but we want to make it easier for them. We want them to find you somewhere else. And then here's the fourth thing you need to do as a podcast guest. You need to follow up. Okay, and I always say that you've probably heard me say this already before, but if you don't follow up, it's like the big F you, right? So as a guest, the number one thing you need to do is follow up with the host. Thank you. Checking in. It's a starting of a relationship. So don't use it as a transaction. So you come into a podcast, you get interviewed by the host. It's the beginning of a relationship. See what else you guys can do together. This is how we created 6 figures in our business from 2 podcast interviews, because I collaborated with 2 of those guests that I had on, and we created something in our businesses that led to 6 figures in revenue. And that was just in the last 12 months. And that's only from 2 interviews. So you don't need to have a collaboration and a relationship with everyone, but this is the beginning of a relationship. So just remember, when you go on a podcast, that it's always in the follow-up and the extension of that initial interview. All right. So now here's some of the questions that you guys asked. And I know I'm running short on time already, so I'll skip to it. So here's where do you find the shows to go on? So number one, two different places that we use for our agency clients to book on is Guestio and Podmatch. Those are two places we like to go. They've got good quality guests there. They're easy to find on there. And we can usually match our clients with some really great people on these two platforms. But there's some cooler places that you can come to. Like, for example, you can come to the Grand Connection meetup like we're at right now, the second Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. You can also come on the first Tuesday of every month to Connect and Collaborate, which is a group that's like meeting for podcasters and guests, kind of like what we're doing today. That's the one that I run. And then my friend Kimberly Crow runs Speakers Playhouse on Thursdays at 10 o'clock. So these are all places that are live and happening that you can come to and meet other podcasters, and podcasters can meet guests and guests can meet podcasters, which is awesome. There's also a couple of really good Facebook groups that I would recommend as well. My friend Sarah Panner runs one called the Podcast Collab Club, and she's got about 45,000 people in her Facebook group there too. So that's a good place to find a guest as well online. Okay, so what do you need as a guest? You don't need to have this speaker one sheet like I have over here. And we have this, we create for all of our guests the directory listing, which you can go and check out Jackie's listing here on our website. And what it will do is it'll give you just an example of some of the things that you need to get prepared for before you go as a guest. Now, I'm not saying you need to create either of these. What these do for the guests is that they collect everything in one place. So you've got questions that you can ask. You've got some testimonials. You've got some video stuff. You've got some great things that will be really helpful as you're applying to be on shows. The guests have it all in one place. Some of the ones in our listing here, it shows you, it asks like, so here's some of the questions you should ask this guest. Here's some topics they can talk on. And there's a booking link right here. So we just want to make it easy for the host to have all your information in one place. Plus, if you want to be prepared for the opportunity when the opportunity comes for you to go and speak somewhere. All right, so then how do you approach the show once you find a show that you want to get on? So we have a 4-part get notice formula. Number one is go and subscribe to their show. Leave them a review. So we call it, sometimes on YouTube it's called subscribe. On iTunes it's called follow. You want to go leave them a nice review, listen to a show, make sure it's a good fit for you, and then follow them on social media, and then start engaging. So leaving them comments, leaving them questions, liking their posts, sharing their podcasts. They're going to notice that. They're going to notice when you leave a review too. So that's a really great way to get a host's attention if you're looking to get on their show. So that after you do all these things in the get notice formula, then you finally connect with them and reach out and find out what they need or what kind of shows they want, what kind of guests they're looking for on their show. They've already recognized your name because you've been leaving them a review and following them and engaging. But guess what is the number one best way to get on a show after you've done these things? Invite them on your own show as a guest first, right? So that's why you need a podcast. You need to invite them on your own show first because no one ever says yes when they invite you onto a show, when you invite them onto their show, right? Okay, and then one of the questions you guys asked was, how do you support a show after you've been on it? What does the host need from you? Well, the host needs you to follow up with them, connect. Oftentimes the host will send you like a graphic or an audiogram or videogram or some social media posts to send out. I know Candy's here today. She does like the most amazing job of follow-ups after her guests have been on her show. She sends them at like, a couple of weeks and 30 days and 60 days and 90 days, some more things to send out and share out on social media. So follow up, then promote the heck out of the episode. You were on it. You want to be proud of it. Put it on your website, share it in all sorts of different places. You can create a list or a collection list with your own podcast guest bookings on it, right? Put it on your guest booking page, all sorts of different places that you can do. Just promote the heck out of that episode. Then you want to connect with them. At the end of every episode, I always actually ask my guests if I can give them a testimonial. And then oftentimes they will give me a testimonial back as a guest. So what this does is gives me some other content that I could promote out with the podcast. I also ask, what else do you need? How else can I connect you? Who else do you need to be connected with? Are you looking for more guests? Are you looking to be on shows? How can I support you? So that's how I support the shows that I go on as a guest. All right. And then how can we help you? So Amplifyou could help you get booked on shows. You can join our Podcast 100 challenge. You can let us find the shows for you and we'll book them for you with our podcast guest management. You can launch your own show and you can join the Amplifyou Academy. Or if you need help managing your guests and publishing your show, you can join our podcast management. So here are two ways that you can connect. So you can book a call with me and I'm happy to chat with you. And then here's our podcast success blueprint. So go ahead and grab it. It's a helping you kind of set up your own show if you're looking at doing your own show. And it's a couple hours training in there as well. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if anyone else, I can also put all of these links in the chat if that's helpful for you guys. So there's a lot of different places that I mentioned in there and I'm happy to put them all in the chat in a few minutes. I just need a few minutes to get them all together. But yeah, I don't know if we have time for any questions or anything. I know I was trying to give you as much goods as possible in a short amount of time.
Yeah, you are amazing, Michelle. I mean, and there's so much value in what you shared with us in 15 minutes. So there were some questions about the links. So and I said, when Michelle gets around to it, yes, she will put the links in. We also had a question about whether the slides and a replay would be available, of course, for Grand Connection members. Susan, let me know if I'm wrong, but for Grand Connection members, the replays are always available, and that includes the slides. So that's great. And I saw a couple of hands go up, but they disappeared. There we are. Hannah did you have a question for Michelle?
I did. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to speak or just write. So yeah, Michelle, I was just curious, what are the services that are offered to actually help podcasters, not just to learn how to do it themselves, but if they don't have the time to maybe take on some of that labor as well?
Yeah, great point. We have a completely done for you service. So you come to us, we'll interview you to get all of your content. We'll create you a directory listing on the guest page. So it gives you all your information. So it's all in one place. And then we will start booking you on shows. So we'll find the leads for you and then we'll actually schedule it for you as well. So it's a completely done for you service that we do for a lot of our clients. And it's really helpful if you don't have a lot of time and you just want someone else to go and find it for you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned the link for the blueprint.
Yeah, so it's one of those weird ones because it's connected to our thing. So the best thing to do is just put amplifyou.com/blueprint. It's very easy. There you go. Yeah, if you're typing it in.
Michelle, that's giving an error. Do you want to maybe paste it in or you did it again? Let's see if that works.
Yeah, I did it again. Yeah.
Cool. And Michelle, those 4 things you're wasting your time if you don't do these 4 things. I mean, I haven't been podcasting for very long, but I so get it. The audience match. When I first launched my podcast, I had a button that said, if you want to be a guest. Well, the people who applied to be a guest on my show, which is all about business and strategy and marketing, it was like, where do they get this idea? Like they weren't a match at all. So I can totally understand what you're talking about there. Anybody have any other questions before we do a breakout room? So we'll do a breakout room and let's talk about in that breakout room, let's talk about perhaps, what mistakes have you made of those 4 that Michelle talked about, the call to action, the audience match, the message, and the follow-up.